Okay, in this video I'm going to talk to you about how we add radical numbers. And so if I wanted to add, let's say, the square root of 20 and the square root of 50, well, let's think of some related ideas. First, let's do some easier problems. Let's say the square root of 2 plus the square root of 2, well, that's equal to 2 times the square root of 2. Right? When I add the same thing multiple times, it's like multiplying. So this gives me 2 root 2. It doesn't give me the square root of 4, which we know is 2. And it doesn't give me the square root of 4 because if it did, well, that would mean each of these would have to be equal to 2. And we know that 2 is not the square root of 2. Right? It doesn't multiply. 2 times 2 is not equal to 2. So when we add square roots, we can only add them if they have the same radicand. So you can only add or subtract if square roots with the same radicand. That means I could add the square root of 7 plus 3 times the square root of 7. That would be, this is like 1 times the square root of 7 plus 3 times the square root of 7. That would be 4 times the square root of 7. But if I wanted to add the square root of 2 and the square root of 3, well, that's already in simplest form. Okay, so if I wanted to add the square root of 20 and the square root of 50, I might start by trying to simplify them. The square root of 20 is, let's just think of 20 as 2 times 5, and 50 is 5 times 10, or 5 times 2 times 5. So this radical has 2 2's in it, which make 2 times the square root of 5. This radical has 2 5's in it, which makes 5 times the square root of 2. And since these don't have like radicands, since their radicands are different, that's our answer actually. This is the simplest form. We can't add it. Okay, so let's try to simplify this expression. The first thing I'm going to try to do is simplify any radicals that aren't in simplest form. So let's see, the square root of 20 is like 4, which is 2 times 2 times 5. So I could really think of that as these two 2's would make 2 root 5. Okay, so I'm ready to try and distribute. And so when I distribute 3 root 2, I'm multiplying it by the square root of 10. And you kind of remember from the multiplication video that it's helpful if instead of multiplying them together, you sort of factor them first before you multiply, because you can notice pairs of roots easier that way. It's a little faster. And this is going to be 3 root 2 times 5. Okay, let's move over to the second part. Now we have minus 2 times 2 root 5. And because the 2 is negative out here, we're subtracting 2, and the 3 is positive here, I'm going to minus again 2 root 3. Well, okay, so let's see. I can simplify this term. 3 times root 2 root 5. Well, these are going to make 2. So 3 times 2 is 6 times the square root of 5, plus 3 times the square root of 2 times 5. I could think of 3 times 5. First is 15 times the square root of 2. Minus 2 times 2, okay, well that's, I'm just looking at my colors here. That's going to be 4 root 5 minus 2 root 3. Well, to find any like terms that I could add or subtract, I need to find the same radicand. And so I see there's a 5 and a 5 in the radicands, and that makes those the only radicands. So 6 root 5 and negative 4 root 5 are going to simplify to be 2 root 5. And because I don't have any like terms to go along with my 15 root 2, that's just going to be plus 15 root 2 minus 2 root 3. So that's the simplest form of the expression. Let's do another example. In this example, I want to show you how to subtract 2 root 2 minus 2 root 5. And you have to think of a fraction, like root 2 over 5, as also being there being a number out in front of this the radical. So I could always put a 1 here if I wanted. And that means this second term is the same as 1/5 root 2. Well, okay, so I know to get my answer then, I'm going to do 2 minus 1/5 times root 2. And 2 minus 1/5 is like 1 4/5. So 1 4/5 root 2 would be the answer to 2 root 2 minus root 2 over 5, or 1/5 root 2. But we don't usually write our answers like that in algebra. We usually prefer to have the fraction form. So let's see, 1 4/5 is like 9/5, so 9/5 root 2. And more likely than not, you'll see this written as 9 root 2 over 5.